Hello, hello, hello out there. Hi everyone. I see 18, actually 24 viewers now. That's awesome. Hi. It looks like technology is playing nicely along. We got good audio. The my special new microphone works. That's great. And I see a lot of people in the chat room there. Yeah. Hi, Andreas. Hi, Klaus. Dream Ranger. Try to Wave. Marco. Tromboid. Amy. Hi, Amy. Long time no see. I'm missing the Bay Area. Erwin. And yeah. So, hi, everyone. I don't have an exact plan what's gonna happen today. I just thought like, okay, I'm doing these regular streams now for the for my Patreon supporters, and I figured, hey, let's do one for the public. And so we're just gonna listen to some music. We'll talk about the different things that are happening and just chat and have a good time and then see where this leads and make this a more regular thing. Yeah. So yeah, things are going well. I know some of you were like asking how's my wife doing. If you follow me on social media, you have seen that Tracy was battling breast cancer. That we were dealing with for a good 7, 8 months now. And well, I'm happy to report she's in remission. She completed her treatment and everything is looking good. And now we're finally be able to get into other things again. And oh yeah, Gamescom, Hi Kundenbetreuung. I followed Gamescom on social media, of course, and it sounds from the sounds of it, it was a great event, and I'm really sorry I missed it. But with everything that was going on this year, it was just not in the cards to fly over and do that. But I'm planning to be there next year. So and this is also like Factor 5 is celebrating, or we're all celebrating 30 years of Turrican. And so that will be a big celebration, and I'm looking really forward to that. Hi, Kami, and Boca is there, and yeah, cool. So the first piece that you were hearing there in the introduction here was To the Mountaintop, which is part of my Patreon project. And you can see the album here. It's on Bandcamp. It's royalty-free music, so that's something I have already talked about quite a bit over the last 3 years, but it's becoming more and more important, and it's really growing, and I'm happy about that. So this was To the Mountaintop, the very first piece. And I guess we'll listen to another one, and I guess we'll just go maybe down the list. Joshua Tree Windstorm would be the second one that came out. And let me see where it is here. Yeah, let's listen. And I'll, of course, while we're listening to music, I'm definitely gonna chat. So, so cool. Let's start that. Yeah, so that was Joshua Tree Windstorm. I remember that was that night that's when we still had the larger RV, the Class A diesel, which was like almost like an ocean liner. I mean, that thing was crazy and very heavy, and it bounced around from the wind like you wouldn't believe it. We were a few times we thought like, oh, we might tip over here, but ultimately we made it through the night, and yeah. But that's all like part of the adventure, right? Um, yeah, as Kami mentioned, it's really coming together with the Patreon, and the nice thing is, I think I may play some other things later, maybe a track or two from the Tarek and orchestral selections, which definitely will cause a what do you call it, like a claim on YouTube, a copyright claim, because I have those albums on the orchard, and they do copyright claims from those tracks. But everything I produce for Patreon is royalty free, so it's not going in that content ID system, and it's free to use for anybody. If you have a YouTube video that you need sound for, join the Patreon or buy one of the uh, collections here on Bandcamp, and you're good to go. You can use all these tracks even for commercial projects. The only thing I'm asking for is a credit somewhere, and I think that's great, because this copyright stuff is getting out of hand. Just last week I dealt with a YouTuber who complained that some British composer had sent him a copyright strike. Actually, two copyright strikes. First one in the morning, and then another one came in the afternoon, because he had uploaded Let's Play videos, which I think is that's just insane. I mean, and some music was in that game that the guy played for his YouTube video, and he sent him copyright strikes. And this is serious, because like copyright strike, I think you can only get 3 of them, and then your whole YouTube channel is deleted with all videos and all subscribers and everything lost. And he has 2 on the record now, so he now has to like really hope that not another strike comes before the 90 days probation period is over. So yeah, I think that was extremely heavy-handed and not necessary, because there's other ways. If you have some if you're a composer or a content creator, and you think somebody else on YouTube has violated your copyrights, you can actually send a simple takedown notice. You don't need to send a copyright strike. You can make your case. It's very easy to do. You can have the video taken down, or come to an agreement with the with the uploader or whatever. You can also, if you have your music in one of these services that do content ID, then essentially you're not really penalizing the YouTube channel much, besides you getting payout of the ad revenue that video creates. But yeah, a copyright strike is really like a last resort if you think you're like horribly violated by a YouTuber, and I would never use that. That's just that's not the right way of doing business. But anyway, so all these pieces that I do for Patreon, they're absolutely safe. You can use them anywhere, and never have to worry about anything like that. Okay, so with that said, let's play another one, and going down the list. So this one is called, well, actually maybe we should skip a few just to speed this up, otherwise we're never getting to volume 2. Let's play this Visions of Tyrell, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about it. Vivid Visions of Tyrell. As you can tell from the name already, that's the Blade Runner influence there, yeah. Which I adore that soundtrack, by the way. I wasn't quite as happy with the second movie, which I think was still a good movie, but I was a little bit disappointed by the soundtrack. I thought they could have expanded a little bit more on the original. Maybe I have to give it another try, but I remember sitting in the movie theater and I wasn't that impressed. Very different situation with Tron. I thought Tron 2.0 was just, I mean, blew me away. So I had high hopes for Blade Runner 2, but yeah. Yeah, definitely. CS80 is a fantastic synth, and Arturia did a great job doing the VST instrument version. Um, it's out of the question to have a real CS80 in the motorhome. I mean, it's just too bulky and too heavy. I'm actually quite happy with all the virtual instruments that I have available nowadays, and definitely from my early dreams of producing with synthesizers and composing music, electronic music. I'm super happy that I have access to all these sounds now, which I think are really like 95 to 99% the same as the originals, and it's just so easy to do it in a virtual environment. It's just beautiful. It's an absolute dream come true. And yeah, so there was another question. Yeah, Amiga 34 is the event in Noise in October. It's 2 days of Amiga related stuff going on, and I'll be there. Definitely. I have a sponsor for the trip, and also Factor 5 will have a booth again, and so I will have my little booth on the side there, and there's some cool things planned. So definitely, Andreas, see you there. And what else? All right, well, we'll go down and listen to another one. Maybe one more from this first album here. Yeah, maybe the next one, which was very, very different, but a fun piece with the funk. And yeah, let's listen to that one. Yeah, so this one was definitely a fun one. You know, this is something, and Andreas said here, it sounds fresh. Uh, this is something that this whole Patreon project has really enabled me to do, because if I do game soundtracks, it's usually I mean, I still have a lot of freedom, but it needs to support the game in a certain way. And on Patreon, I really have the option to experiment with all kinds of music styles that I wouldn't get to do, you know, in my usual projects. And that has really brought on yeah, new creativity, and it's very fulfilling. And I have recently also mentioned that I think it's almost like an extension of the Number 9 album. And I experiment with some, you know, some live musician samples, things like the guitar part in here, and just like shaking things up a little bit. But there's still a lot of Huelsbeck in there, so don't worry about it. Okay, so there was a question about if I like the sound of the emulator too. I definitely I adore all the early sample machines, you know, from the 80s. And of course it started with like the super expensive ones, be it like a Fairlight or Synclavier, that you know, I was dreaming of one day maybe I can do something like that, you know, or like making music like The Art of Noise maybe, or stuff like that. Or in case of the emulator, uh, they were used by a lot of British bands, and like Depeche Mode, for example, I think used it extensively. And I always adored that stuff. And when I would go to the music fair in Frankfurt in the mid 80s, I was still a teenager. I got like a special student permit from my music teacher from school, so I could go in there, and I was standing in front of all these machines, and I was just yeah, it was something I dreamt of always. And yeah, and sometimes they do really good emulations now, and I usually try to get them. And I did a bunch of pieces a few years back with the Lindrum samples. Really like how those sound, and I'm sure I had some sounds from the emulator as well. In fact, there was one VST that has a lot of the EMU sounds in a package. I think it's called Proteus or Proteus, the VST. It's an older one, but it still works. I mean, you can get it to work with, what's that, the JBridge software. And yeah, I use that also a little bit here and there. It has its own like character. Yeah. So yeah, think of it like the Patreon project is an extension of the Number 9 album, where I can really try new things, and just have fun with it. And the cherry on top is that everybody who supports that Patreon project or buys these albums can use it for free for whatever. Okay, so let's move on. Um, Maybe let's go to the second one. Go to the second album. And oops, no, there. And one thing you see right off the bat here is the first 5 pieces, and then the last one there is Tunnel X1, which was actually a game. It was a game that I did music for, and the developer decided not to. I mean, he had actually an early version of it on a mobile platform, but I think it was what was it? The BlackBerry, the newer BlackBerry, and then he wanted to do it on Android and iOS, and it never materialized. So eventually, I asked him, "Hey, can't I like release this whole game soundtrack on my Patreon?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." And so you basically, if you have like a futuristic game, you can totally use this whole game soundtrack and yeah, and go for it. Okay, so let's listen to the first in-game piece. Yeah. Yeah, that makes me happy that the stream is working out. I'm streaming at a relatively low bit rate, but I think that affects mostly the video and the frame rate, just to be sure that there's no dropouts and stuff. And then I invested in, I mean, I had a second laptop that's like identical machine to my work machine, because just in case ever something happens to the hardware in my main machine, I could just like swap the drive out to the other one and keep on working, because reinstalling Windows with all my music stuff, that could take like easily a week or longer. and I definitely don't want to have to ever do that. But the bonus is that I can use the second machine for streaming and not bog down the main machine with CPU on that. But it took me a while to perfect it. I bought a Elgato streaming capture card that runs through that second monitor output from the other laptop. And then I had trouble with the audio. There was a few times when I streamed and people couldn't hear me, and I was so frustrated. And ultimately, I have the Elgato on there. I have a sound card for the high-end audio input, and then I have a simple, it's another little audio device for the microphone, which, by the way, clips onto my headset. It's this, because I also thought, like, should I just get like a gaming headset? But I love these headphones, and I cannot imagine like having another set of headphones just for the streaming. So I bought this microphone, and it snaps on you with a strong magnet, and then it has its own audio device that it can plug into the second laptop, and that works beautiful. No, this song has nothing to do with the Tunnel V1 soundtrack. It was just a game that actually looked similar to Tunnel V1, in that you were racing futuristic craft through through this futuristic tunnel, and but it was kind of like this. This is like, what, I don't know what you call that genre. It was something. It would like go faster and faster and throw more obstacles in your way, and they called it Tunnel X. So I thought like it would be a fun homage to the Tunnel V1 if I call it Tunnel X1. So, okay, yeah. What else? Yeah, I'll get to Marco's request to talk about how I put these songs together. We'll do that here in a few minutes. Meantime, Kami asked about chip sounds in Touchfish CD3. Yeah, that was like the special chip sound chill out album, and I used all kinds of emulations of old sound chips, which there are plenty. If you do music with VST plugins, you'll find plenty of even free plugins that emulate, like, I don't know, different sound chips from different eras. And then also the Quadrasit I used, which was the plugin I actually helped to develop a sound bank for, from ReFX. Unfortunately, that one is not available anymore, but my copy still works, and I'll keep it around as long as I can make it work in JBridge. I will keep it. And then there's a bunch of newcomers on the block. There's this what's it called? Image Soundworks or something like that. They have a sample library. It's called Super Audio Card that runs in Native Instruments Contact or Compact. It's a sample library, but they also have some synth functions in there, and it sounds very good, and it's very comprehensive. It has all these like different machines, even like samples from the Super Nintendo and things like that. And yeah, that's a pretty cool one. And then there's a brand new one that I haven't tried out yet, even though they actually offered me like to participate in a beta, but I just didn't have time over the last half a year. It was just too busy with everything. That's from the Plogue guys from France, I think they are. And they have something, I think it's called Chip Sound or something like that. Plogue Chip Sounds. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm not sure. Anyway, so there's a lot that you can use in that way. All right, so maybe we'll go on to what I promised Marco here, and this is actually something I do for the higher Patreon supporters as well. Once a month I have like a full hour where I load up the latest tracks and discuss how I put them together in in Cubase. So let's try that out. I hope it works. Start up Cubase here, and then which one should we load up? Maybe one of the newer ones that are not on the latest CD. So let's go onto Patreon to show you how that looks like. So the posts are here. Of course, this is my developer account. So yeah. And I do have all these like different tiers, and if you look, for example, here the $15 tier has this access to the live streaming. And what we have Ocean Highway, that was the last one. And let's see what else. The Heroes, yeah, that's a pretty cool one. But maybe we should just go with the last one, the Ocean Highway. And I'm not gonna go into as much details as I do on the yeah. So let's try to find that here. Oops. Ocean Highway. And I haven't cleaned this one up yet, I don't think so. The arrangement might look a little bit wild. It's loading. Takes a while. Okay. Surprised it takes this long. Maybe I have to speed up my CPU a little bit. I have this nifty tool here that can stop the automatic energy savings that's built into the CPU. It's called throttle stop, and that's really a cool tool to speed up your older machine. Because sometimes Windows or whatever, I don't know what it's doing there, but this thing definitely helps. Okay, so there's still a few tracks in here that are empty. Well, maybe not that many. Okay, it looks actually pretty cleaned up. Okay, so this was fun. So let's take a listen, and then I'll talk a little bit about tracks and how I start and how I develop it. So yeah, there you got it, a playthrough of the latest track on Patreon. This is obviously not on the albums yet. That will make an appearance on volume 3. And yeah, so how do I start out? The, I I don't quite remember on how it was on this one, but it's often like that. You see, the first track here is piano, and I really often load that up first and just play on the keyboard. Oh, there's that long reverb on there that I love so much. But anyway, so I'll just play, try out some melodies, and very often with a piano, and then but I sometimes I also have an idea of like, oh, do I want to make this track more up tempo or something, then I quickly load up a bass and some drums and just like get a little bit of a beat going, and then play around over that. Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that I do. Here's the one. This is an older plugin that I really love. It's the Atmosphere, and one of my favorite patches there is this one called Sparkling JD. So let's listen to that solo here. And there's also some modulation going on down there. Yeah, things like that. So, and this is kind of like the insight that you would get if you join the Patreon at that $15 level. Even though I think like over time I have the previous streams archived, and I have recently given out some those are like unlisted URLs, and I have given them to anybody who joins the Patreon. I mean the videos a few months back. So yeah, but that's something I like to do. And then also I have this like really premium level for $25 where I actually export the whole Cubase file and all the separate tracks, export them as audio files as well, and also I make a universal MIDI file that you can load up in any software, not just Cubase. And that's I distribute those all to the $25 patrons every month. And actually I hope that somebody takes it and makes like some cool remix out of it. So that's something, if you're a music producer yourself and you really want to like dive into these things and look how they're constructed, if you have the same Cubase version, you can load it up in there. And if you want to do remixes, you can work with the audio stems and the MIDI files. So that's also a fun bonus for those. And don't forget, you can get all the previous released ones. Once you join that level, you have access to all those previous posts, and you can download them all like since the beginning. Yeah, and I think we're getting closer to the end here, because I want to keep these at about an hour, but I'm definitely planning to do this public stream at least once a month. And so we're going to do this definitely again sometime in September. And I think we'll close this out maybe with some track from Hurricane Orchestral Selections. I think that would be a fitting send-off, and of course I'll stay in the chat. Go back here. Oh, oops. And go to Hurricane Orchestral Selections. Which one should we play? We'll play one that's not currently here on live streaming. So I have to find it first, and then I'll also get back to the chat. I'm sure there were some more questions there. It really organized this better. So. Oh, I can just play it from here actually. Okay, this will be the easiest. So, well, let's try one. Let's try Techno Dungeon. Yeah, that is that's quite something. Um, I remember like Kamikaze was actually with us in the recording session there, and it was really um, an insane experience. I mean, yeah. So anyway, yeah, check this out on Bandcamp if you wanna get the album. That's really the best choice there. You also get like a PDF version of the booklet. That's something not all the other digital music outlets have yet. And you can you can download it in FLAC or WAV, even WAV files. And yeah, so Bandcamp is always a good choice. And I hope to, you know, um, see some of you joining the Patreon as well. And then we'll do this again next month. And thanks so much for tuning in. I'll stay in the chat room for a few more minutes and answer questions. And well, let's play one final music piece for the send-off. Maybe from, yeah. Which one should we do? Maybe the Getting There. That's like an upbeat track that's not set for streaming here on Bandcamp. So let's play that one. Let's play it right from here. And thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next month again. Bye. Yeah, Bandcamp glitches here a little bit. I'm gonna start it again as a from my drive here because that's not nice. Oh, there's glitches too.